to the midnight hour.
Hi. Even now, this story still unsettles me. Whether you believe it or not, that's up to you. What matters is that it happened to me. Before I go any further, I should explain something. The name I'm using isn't my real one. You can call me Damon. I'm 35 years old, and I currently work for a government institution, one I won't identify. Most people belong to something. A fraternity, a professional circle, a faith built around shared belief. I did too. Except the group one became part of was hidden. And it wasn't built on safety. Everything began when I was studying economics at a well-known university in Paris. At the time, I was hopeful. I believed that once my studies were finished, my future would fall into place. I officially began studying in France in 2005. Paris wasn't unfamiliar to me. My uncle worked there as a diplomat. I had visited often with family. Because of that, I felt prepared. Not emotionally, but professionally. People often told me I had a talent for writing. In high school, I wrote poems, short stories, pieces about people and power. Because of my background and travel, I spoke several languages besides English. I wrote in many of them. One of those stories was a suspense piece I wrote in French. Its title translated loosely to The Heat of Summer. It explored contradiction, authority, hidden behavior behind respected roles. When I submitted it to a university literary contest, it caused discomfort, debate. Some demanded it be withdrawn. In the end, it won first prize. That moment marked the beginning of everything. The piece was published in the university journal. The responses were mixed, but attention followed. Then one night, I received an email. At first, I ignored it. Then another arrived. The subject line read, "We can change your life, Damon." Curiosity won. I opened it. The message spoke of an invitation. A private gathering, hosted by influential individuals. I was selected, it said, because of unusual potential. The instructions were precise. Tell no one. Wear black. Be prepared for uncertainty. I assumed it was a prank. The next day, as I approached the university entrance, a dark vehicle stopped near me. Two men stepped out. They didn't shout. They didn't rush. There was simply no space to refuse. Inside the vehicle, another man was waiting. He was dressed entirely in black. Still, observant. I didn't ask questions. He introduced himself as Michaelis. His voice was calm, certain. He described himself as part of an organization older than modern nations, a group sometimes referred to as the Illuminati. At first, I wasn't afraid. I assumed it was theater, a test, but Michaelis never smiled. He spoke about history, influence, about thinkers who shaped the world quietly. He framed their philosophy around reason, progress, and resistance to imposed limits. He said they already existed everywhere. In politics, in business, in culture. Some members were publicly admired, including himself. Then he looked at me and said nothing. Instead, he handed me an envelope. Inside were copies of my work. Stories, essays, thoughts I didn't remember sharing so widely. They knew me. They wanted me because I wasn't famous. Not yet. Influence, he said, was strongest when cultivated early. I told him I wasn't interested. I said I wouldn't align myself with belief systems I didn't accept. Michaelis listened. Then he reminded me, quietly, that they already knew my views. He explained that rejection was complicated, not impossible, just consequential. The meaning was clear. I agreed. Before I was released, he handed me a small envelope sealed with dark wax. Inside was an invitation, a time, a place, instructions. They left me on a quiet street. I went home. I didn't attend classes. That night, sleep never came. Because by then, I understood something. What I had been offered wasn't an opportunity. It was a decision already made. And I had no safe way out. So in the end, I accepted the truth I had been avoiding. That I was going to become part of something hidden, powerful, and quietly dangerous. Before the gathering, instructions came through people connected to Michaelis. Never directly. Never all at once. They told me very little. Only that the organization worked toward influence on a global scale, and that almost everything about it was known by almost no one. Later, I realized that even the most common stories told about them weren't exactly wrong. Just incomplete. When the night finally arrived, I distracted myself by researching Michaelis. What I found confirmed what he had told me. He was a well-known singer and composer in Europe, especially in Cyprus and across the Balkan region. Nothing about his public life suggested anything unusual. Just before midnight, there was a knock at my door. 2 men were waiting outside. Calm, prepared. I followed them downstairs. A car was already there. 1 man sat in front. The other sat beside me in the back. No one spoke. At 11:54 p.m., we arrived near Notre Dame Cathedral. The streets were silent. Still, from the outside, nothing suggested activity. We entered through a side passage, and inside, the space was already full. Hundreds of people stood quietly in the dim light. Candles were the only illumination. The silence felt intentional, as if sound itself was being restrained. I recognized several faces. Public figures, artists, writers. Others I assumed were newcomers. Like me. At exactly midnight, the gathering began. What followed didn't resemble anything familiar. It was formal, symbolic, measured. Words were spoken in a structured, ancient-sounding language. Certain ideas were repeated, presented as principles, not explanations. Midway through, the newcomers were acknowledged. 8 of us. We were introduced without ceremony. Printed materials were distributed. Names, concepts, individuals described as visionaries. Then Michaelis addressed us. His voice was calm, almost reassuring. He asked us to demonstrate commitment. We followed his instructions. The act itself was described as symbolic, ceremonial. What was collected was placed into a vessel, then later incorporated into a shared rite. Everything was done efficiently. Without hesitation, the gathering continued. And then, the atmosphere changed. A man was brought forward. He appeared overwhelmed, disoriented, terrified. He was guided to the center as part of the ceremony. I avoided studying him too closely. The master of ceremony announced what they called a transformation. We were asked to step closer. That's when I saw his expression. He looked around the room, as if searching for help, for recognition. Something inside me hesitated. But I remembered the warning I had been given, and I looked away. The chanting grew louder. The air felt heavier. Michaeli stepped forward, holding a ceremonial object. What followed happened quickly. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, the ceremony had already moved on. Attendants were continuing the ritual with precision. My hands were shaking. I wasn't alone. Then the master of ceremony spoke again. He explained that the final stage required complete participation. An ending. And a beginning. Before I could react, an assistant approached us. Each of us was handed a small glass. An unfamiliar blue liquid. We hesitated. But none of us refused. Soon after, my thoughts began to blur. The room felt distant, unanchored. Some of the others reacted erratically, almost instinctively. My vision faded. When awareness returned, I felt disconnected from myself, as if something essential had shifted. The others looked the same. Silent. Hollow. The master of ceremony announced that we were accepted. Applause echoed through the hall. Everyone recited a long chant together. Its meaning unclear to me, but clearly significant to them. Each of us received a small velvet box. Inside was a symbolic ring. We were instructed to face the assembly, one by one. We were greeted by senior members. That was the initiation. Not chaotic, not dramatic, just a final. Later, the Grand Master addressed us privately. Roles were assigned. Mine was straightforward. Because I could write. I was expected to create work across culture, belief, and place ideas subtly. Quietly. Influence works best, they said. When people don't realize it's happening. I was given a copy of a well-known children's novel. You would recognize it immediately. Over time, it had reshaped how millions thought. Slowly. Without resistance. That became my responsibility. And that is how I became part of the organization. After the event, I returned to the house where I was staying. I wasn't injured, but my body wouldn't stop reacting. A deep, uncontrollable trembling. Like my nerves hadn't received the message that it was over. I went straight to the bathroom. Turned on the shower. I told myself I just needed to rinse the night away, but as the water hit my skin, I started crying. Quietly. At some point, the light above me felt weaker. Not off. Just uncertain. I noticed it. Then ignored it. That's when I saw marks on my arms. Dark smudges. Out of place, as if they belonged to a memory I couldn't fully access. And then I noticed the door. Not fully closed. I thought I saw it move. My heart started racing. When it opened the rest of the way, I froze. I couldn't bring myself to look toward the darkness beyond it. Moments later, I sensed someone approaching. Not footsteps, just presence. I screamed when a figure appeared in the mirror. Not clearly, just enough. A man-shaped reflection, covered in shadows and stains. That didn't look natural. His face was slack. His eyes were open, but empty. I screamed again. The sound echoed strangely, as if it came from somewhere beneath me. The room felt overwhelmed. Too full. Dizziness took over. And then, nothing. I woke up to a doorbell. Ringing. Insistent. I was lying on my bed. The bathroom door was closed. The shower was still running. Morning light filled the room. Too much time had passed. I checked the clock. 8:46 a.m. My uncle was at the door. I let him in. I told him I hadn't heard the bell because I'd been in the shower. He studied my face, asked why I looked frightened. "I'm fine," I said. But even as I spoke, I could hear echoes in my head, fragments of voices. My body still shaking. The room felt watched. He asked if anyone was bothering me, if I felt unsafe. Said things like that happen often. Said I should tell him the truth. I couldn't. I said I didn't feel well. That was safer. He told me my mother was worried, that I hadn't answered calls or messages, that he came to make sure I was still alive. I told him I'd been busy studying, that I'd call her soon. I didn't have the energy to explain anything. I took another shower. While he prepared breakfast, I ate quietly. He told me to rest before leaving. He reminded me to answer my phone. I stayed inside all day. Door locked, curtains drawn, still shaking, still crying. When night came, sleep wouldn't come with it. Every time I closed my eyes, a shape returned. Not clear, just enough to disturb me. Around 3 in the morning, I heard movement outside my room. I got out of bed, moved slowly, pressed my ear to the door. Something was close. Very close. The sound stopped. Right outside. My breathing became loud. My legs trembled. The handle moved. Someone, or something, was trying to open the door. At the same moment, the lights went out. The room dropped into darkness. I felt warmth near my ear, like breath that wasn't mine. I stumbled backward, fell onto the bed, grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. Something stood in the room. A familiar outline. Damaged. Incomplete. The eyes were wrong. Empty, hollow. Not angry. Just gone. I screamed. My vision collapsed, and everything disappeared. I woke again at sunrise. In my bed. Alone. Unsure whether I dreamed or lost time. At 8 in the morning, I received a message. Instructions. A meeting near the Eiffel Tower. My first task. On my way there, I passed an elderly woman putting up notices. I stopped without knowing why. The photo made my body lock up. I recognized the face. Not from memory, from association. It was him. The man connected to that night. The one who never left my thoughts. I took one of the notices with me. At the restaurant, Michaelis explained my assignment. A literary competition. A piece of work. Meant to influence. Quietly. Subtly. It needed to be stronger than what I'd written before. I showed him the notice. Asked what had happened to the man. He said the man had been offered the same opportunity. That refusal wasn't accepted. That consequences follow hesitation. I didn't need more detail. I understood. If I had refused, that would have been me. From that moment on, my life advanced smoothly. Too smoothly. I finished my studies. Doors opened. Positions appeared. I work within systems now. Quietly. Effectively. I still write. I still create. But nothing belongs to me. I keep my distance from people. I don't build a family. I live alone. It's safer that way. I haven't felt real happiness since. Only obligation. Direction. Control. Years ago, I was promised change. That promise was kept. Just not in the way anyone hopes. Whether you believe my story or not, remember this. Some paths don't warn you before they close behind you. And once they do, you don't get another choice.
If this story followed you into the dark, there are more waiting. Subscribe to the Midnight Hour and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that finds its way back after midnight. Some stories wait for midnight.